We'll just play by ear.
Yeah.
We'll see if he shows up. Okay.
Everyone's all good tonight.
All right. Oh, you guys ready over there? Almost. Hello, everybody. Once again, unnecessarily restarting it all. Welcome, everybody. First of all, cameras on. Welcome to our Toastmasters meeting. We meet every Tuesday right here at the Club Room of Hy-Vee in Fairfield, right next to all the good ice cream and all the good frozen treats. We're going to try to hustle it up since we have a late start. First of all, basic stuff. If you're doing a roll, please have your club leadership manual filled out by somebody, and be sure to speak with someone at the end of the meeting. Also, be sure to turn your wonderful cell phones off or have them on silent. Let's get started quick. Let's hustle up. Welcome, Mr. Fraser Jones, our Toastmaster for tonight. Thank you.
Fellow members, viewers at home, good evening. Tonight we have two speeches. First, let me introduce the role players. Okay. Next, we have Peter Royal, the grammarian.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. As grammarian, I will be watching out for positive or negative language that is used in the speeches and table topics. I will be trying to catch people doing something good, and if there is an offhand error, I will also mention it. I'm in charge of the word of the day, and today's word of the day is inoculate. My definition that I just decided to use from my point of view is to administer an agent, substance, vitamin, or contaminant for the purpose of boosting immunity. Used in a sentence, I'm hoping that as the spring weather comes, the sunshine will help inoculate me against any further illness this season. Mr. Toastmaster.
Next, we go to the general the accountant, Jeff Shipley.
Thanks, Fraser. My name's Jeff Shipley. I'm the art counter for this evening. My job is going to be to monitor the speakers and take note of filler words, crutch words that sometimes we rely on when we aren't speaking smoothly. Example of a word like this, these types of words would be like, you know, so, but, and. Weird sounds with your mouth, Xeroxes, repeats, and false starts. And with my report at the end of the meeting, hopefully I can help inoculate the club against this negative habit. Thank you.
Good one, Jeff. In addition, the general evaluator will be Dennis, and we'll be hearing from him later. Right now, we'll move to the prepared speech section of our meeting. And to introduce the first speech, I'll call on the evaluator, Will Burns, to read the objective.
Thank you, Fraser. Jean Craig has been a member of Golden Speakers for more than 6 years and is currently the club treasurer. Tonight you will gain knowledge about evaluation to help you and your fellow club members on their individual paths to growth and success. Dan will present the Successful Club Series module, Evaluate to Motivate, which we schedule regularly so that all club members are reminded of the best practices for this vital part of the club experience. Toastmasters International has stated that evaluation is the foundation of the Toastmasters program. The more effective we are at evaluation, the more that we will profit from the exercise. Audience members learn from the good example of an effective evaluation. Evaluators learn to sharpen their listening, analytical, and impromptu speaking skills. Effective evaluations benefit speakers most of all. Please help me warmly welcome Dan. Evaluate to motivate.
Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, viewers at home. Tonight I'm going to give the Successful Club Series module, Evaluate to Motivate. Evaluation is central to the Toastmasters program. In this club, we evaluate table topics, we evaluate speakers, we evaluate leadership assignments, we have our general evaluator evaluate the evaluators of speakers and table topics. I'm giving a project regarding motivating through evaluating, and when I'm done, somebody's going to evaluate me. We do a lot of evaluating in the club, and this reflects how important Golden Speakers and Toastmasters feel that this part of the program is. I'm going to read a quote about evaluating from an article written by David Dobson, which was in the Toastmasters magazine, The 3 R's of Evaluating: Review, Reward, and Respond. He said, evaluations are the lifeblood of Toastmasters meetings. They are what keep members coming back for more. New speakers depend on them for information, help, and development. Long-standing speakers need them to prevent the onset of mental rust or complacency. The evaluation process separates Toastmasters International from any other organization offering public speaking coaching. But first, we want to consider the benefits of an evaluation for a speaker. The first thing that a speaker gets from an evaluation is immediate feedback. He gives the project, and just a few minutes later, an evaluator is standing up and giving his opinion of how well that project was done. It's valuable because it's fresh in everybody's mind, including the speaker. It's also a chance for the evaluator to offer methods for improvement. He's looked to see if there are any issues. He's perhaps giving a fresh perspective on things that can be done to improve. And the third thing that is a benefit is that self-esteem is built. When we play up the strong points and we correct the flaws, this builds self-esteem for Toastmasters. And also this carries over into professional and personal life. We continue to refine our speaking ability when we get systematic, organized feedback through the evaluations. Feedback is very valuable not only in Toastmasters, but in anything we do. Ken Blanchard, a renowned leadership consultant, likes to say, feedback is the breakfast of champions. Can you imagine training for the Olympics and not having anybody tell you how fast you ran or how high you jumped? It sounds ridiculous, but in many organizations, people complete tasks and they're given no feedback. We're trying to inoculate our Toastmasters experience from that disease because feedback is so important to our progress. People who can take all types of feedback often are very successful in their lives. For example, Bill Gates said in his 2013 TED Talk, we all need people who will give us feedback. That's how we improve. And indeed, isn't that why we're all in Toastmasters, to grow and improve? Now we're going to talk about the unique character of a Toastmasters evaluation. This tell and sell is a management term that's often used regarding an employee's evaluation. We're going to use the same term to speak about Toastmasters because the evaluator is speaking and the speaker is just sitting and listening. There are several advantages to this approach. The first is that it's very efficient. rather than have a conversation back and forth between the evaluator and the speaker is just sitting and listening. It's easier on the speaker in many ways because he or she doesn't feel that he has to respond in real time to anything that the evaluator may be saying. But the evaluator and the speaker can get together afterwards and discuss anything that needs to be, and that is encouraged. This process works best if an evaluator has some experience with the club, knows how we do our procedures. So we recommend that a new member gives at least 3 speeches before they're assigned to be an evaluator. In order to give an effective evaluation, one thing to consider is the best way to address the evaluation to the speaker. I'm going to read a further excerpt of David Dobson's article in which he discusses the choice between first person and third person address to the speaker. He says, first person style, what is it? The evaluator addresses the comments directly to the speaker using the speaker's name and phrases such as, your eye contact was directed to the left. I liked your opening statement. Perhaps you could, or I suggest you try to. In this approach, the eye contact of the evaluator to the speaker often covers 90% of the evaluation time. In that case, the larger group may sense a loss of sharing. They feel like something's happening between 2 people and they're not quite included. And often the normal speaking courtesies aren't observed. Eye contact with the various members of the audience, speaking to each individual, effective body language. So there are some difficulties, some challenges with the first person. Third person style, what is it? In this, the evaluator addresses the comments to the whole audience with phrases such as, John had a very dramatic opening, or Jane managed to bring a lot of humor to her talk, or did you notice how his body language accentuated his talk? By using third-party style, rather than being impersonal, you're actually singing the praises of the speaker as you address the strength. This makes most speakers feel good about themselves in front of their peers. You can comment on their points for improvement, and everyone will learn from your suggestions. Additionally, a person being evaluated will not perceive any threat of superiority from the evaluator and will be more receptive to the feedback as she sits and listens comfortably. She won't feel she's in the hot seat. And the speaking courtesies tend to be observed. The evaluator delivers the message in a natural manner, keeps eye contact with various parts of the audience, voice, vocal varieties, and so on. And don't forget that evaluation is your personal opinion. As long as your comments are given in a personal and helpful manner, you can choose either first or third person and still do a good job of it. Now let's consider how to evaluate effectively. These slides are going to talk about 3 points of the evaluation: before the talk, during the talk, and during the evaluation. Before the talk, there's some homework to be done. It's important for the speaker and the evaluator to both review the objectives of the project and the evaluation guidelines. In each of our manuals, a project presents objectives to a speaker, and that's the area that the speaker is trying to try on for the first time, to grow in that way by trying something different. The speaker is evaluating the evaluator is evaluating that speaker on those objective criteria. Other things can come into play other than just the manual objectives, but that's the anchor of the whole presentation so that it doesn't go off in some direction that's not useful for everyone. Before the speech, the evaluator also asks if the speaker has any particular concerns, wants to concentrate on something in particular, if they're feeling nervous, you can encourage them, and so on. During the speech, You show that you're interested. Put yourself in the position of the speaker, take notes. The main thing that's being suggested here is that you're focused on helping the other person. You're not demonstrating your own speaking skills. If for some reason the focus goes away from the speaker, a lot is lost in the chance to learn and improve. In short, you could just say it's not about you. The evaluator is there to give feedback of things well done, constructive feedback on things that might need to be improved. And during an evaluation, we need to remember to choose our words carefully, evaluate the speech, not the person, and promote self-esteem. Remember, this is your opinion. So it's important to use I phrases. I believe, my reaction was, what I saw was. You want to make sure that you're not in front of the room presenting yourself as if you were the spokesman for the club, or as if you were an expert weighing in on what you just saw. The goal is to stimulate improvement. And that's never going to be accomplished by heavy indictments like, you failed to, or you should have. It's not going to make anybody feel good. Words can hurt people. They've just given a speech in front of the class. They've sort of extended themselves, and you can smash their feeling level pretty easily if you don't watch yourself. The worst mistake we can make is to give an evaluation that's too harsh. If that happens, the speaker might not want to try it again. The members of the audience or the guests might not want to try it again either. So the main goal is to encourage the speaker. Instead of evaluating the speaker's ideas, we want to help them communicate their ideas. Instead of evaluating the speaker's delivery, we do want to evaluate the speaker's delivery, not evaluate the person that's standing there speaking, or their lifestyle, or their choices. A final thing to be aware of is that we want to be genuine. If we give a positive reinforcement, sincere praise, useful points to be considered, then the maximum will be gained by the speaker in every case. But we do want to be aware that we should never whitewash the evaluation. Sometimes we don't want to hurt the person's feelings. So we stand up and say, you did so many things well, it's just great. I can't wait till the next one. This might make the person feel good in the short run, but if all the evaluations are like that, the club will just sort of really be seriously impacted over time. We won't be growing, we won't be challenging each other to improve. Before concluding, I'm going to read a recap of a concise overview of a good evaluation. This was Thoughts on Giving an Exceptional Evaluation by Judith Tingley, DTM, which also appeared in the Toastmaster magazine. She said, first, focus on specifics. Your enthusiastic opening inspired us from the start. Your clear chronological organization helped us understand your speech quickly. Focus on positives. Your opening grabbed the audience. The audience looked mesmerized. Give concrete suggestions. The splashy ending might have worked better as the opening. Decrease the details in the stories or the number of stories you told so we could stay on track. Point out needed areas of improvement. This speech would have been even more effective in front of the lectern. Don't repeat the speaker's content. We've heard it. Focus entirely on the speaker, not on yourself, your similar or different experiences, or your equally stellar qualities. Focus on the speech, not on the speaker's personality, values, or lifestyle. In conclusion, evaluations are one of the most important learning tools in the Toastmasters program. When we are able to not only help a person accomplish their own personal goals, but also have the chance to polish our own leadership and communication skills, that's a win for everyone. We owe it to ourselves, we owe it to the person we're evaluating, we owe it to the members of the club to give a positive, constructive, informative evaluation. And if our evaluations are like that, then all of the members will be able to grow to be the speakers that they want to be. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Timer, can we have 2 minutes to evaluate the speaker? Okay, we are back. So for the next speaker, I'll call on his evaluator, Jean Symington Craig, to read the objectives.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm staying in my coat because it feels kind of cool in here from power last week, Valentine's Day, but that's all right. Tonight, Emery Styron is going to be giving project number 1 from the advanced communication manual called Speaking to Inform. The first project is called The Speech to Inform. His objectives are to select new and useful information for presentation to the audience, to organize the information for easy understandability and retention, and present the information in a way that will help motivate the audience to learn. Emery Styron, our Vice President of Education, is going to use this Project 1 to train us on how to use EasySpeak, the software program for Toastmasters. Emery is a journalist who lives in Mount Pleasant. Like many of us, he has a love-hate relationship with technology, but he has learned to love EasySpeak. The title of his speech tonight is called Getting the Most Out of EasySpeak. Please help me warmly welcome Emery Styron.
Thank you, Jean. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and viewers at home. For the last few weeks, you've heard me implore you to log in and use EasySpeak. How many of you have done that? Several. Yeah. Ooh, just about unanimous here. Great. So I'll be preaching to the choir. But there is a learning curve to EasySpeak, and we're going to try to smooth that out tonight. We want to inoculate ourselves against lack of know-how. So after we're done, I hope that you will spend more time with EasySpeak and find it'll make you a better Toastmaster and make us a stronger Golden Speakers Toastmasters Club. We're going to focus tonight on the basics. There are many features, but we're going to focus on the basics. Logging in, setting up your profile, requesting speeches, and confirming attendance and roles. So I'm going to move over here where I can control the computer, and I'm also going to give you a handout so you can follow along, and hopefully it'll help you retain the information a little better. I don't know if that should be enough for everybody. Okay, we want to start by logging into EasySpeak. Okay, each Toastmaster in our club is assigned a user ID. That can be changed, but I assign you one as Vice President of Education, and Once you're put into the system, I send you a link to your email that you can click on to take you to Easy Speak and log in for the first time. Now what I find is once I log in, I have to actually log in twice, and the first one gets me to Easy Speak, and the second one gets me to Golden Speakers. I don't know if that's anybody else's experience, but it is mine. So once you're in, you have a profile tab. And in that profile tab is a screen where you can control your username, you can update your email address, you can change your password if you like. There are other features to the profile. You can have information about you stored on there. Mine needs updated. I no longer do any teaching. I no longer have a landline. You can, if you're vain like me, upload a picture. I think I'm the only one who's done that. That's something else we'll get into a little later. So that's the profile tab. And to request a speech, that's under my participation. So right here, there's a drop-down menu where you can do various things. And it also shows up over here on the left side. So if you click this Request a Speech tab, it pulls up a whole separate dialog box. And you can fill in your speech title right there. You can write your introduction so it's there. Your evaluator can see that and pull it off there. So I like to email mine and bring it to the meetings too. And then under this workbook speech tab, you can go to any workbook. So when I did mine, the speech to inform, I requested that, project 1. So it showed up there. Then under preferred dates, you have your choice. You can put in your first, second, and third choice dates. I haven't used that. Nobody else has that I know of, but that is available there. Okay, so much for request to speech. Okay, maybe get out of this. All right, sign up for meetings. You can pull down this meetings link and see a calendar. There it is. Okay, so for next week, no, not next week, the next week. All right. Okay. We got to the February 27th meeting. All right, so I have put in those assignments. At the top of the page, what we would like you to do is click that green thumb to say that you're coming. Or if you're not coming, click the red thumb. Either way, we'll know. And then this is the view for me as a club member. So I'm scheduled as an evaluator. To accept that role, I would click on that green thumb. And so now that green is grayed out. If I later decide I can't make it, I could go back in there and click that red thumb and cancel out. You'll notice Jeff Shipley's already gone in and said he's going to be there next week. Way to go, Jeff. So that is the way that you confirm your roles and your attendance at meetings. And you can go way ahead. Up here, where'd it go? Am I way over time? Yeah. I'll wrap it up there. Okay, you see this date range here. You can use that to go, we have meetings put in the system up through the end of May. And so you can specify any date range that we have meetings set up, and you can go in here and state whether you are yes, definitely coming, no, not coming, or you're not sure. Yes?
If I was to click, like, say, the table topics master or something, yes, on one of those dates, would I be able to actually, like, volunteer for that? Or?
I think that's what that amounts to. I haven't
Okay.
really worked with that, but that is my
Okay.
sense of what that's for. So you can request a role if you're working through the competent leader manual and you need a certain role. I believe that that's how you would do
Okay.
it. So. Okay, that covers the points I wanted to cover. Logging in, setting up your profile, requesting speeches, and confirming attendance and roles. I'd hope to move faster and have time for more questions, but I think I better wrap it up. In my experience, this puts some structure in your Toastmaster experience and helps you plan better. I believe if we all do it, it'll help each of us in our Toastmaster lives and will strengthen our club. And I have noticed that doing this cuts down on the amount of Toastmaster emails flowing back and forth. And for me personally, that's a lot less frustrating, or makes the day go more smoothly. So thank you for your attention, and talk to me after the meeting.
Thanks a lot, Emery. Timer. We need 2 minutes for evaluation. So we are back. So the timer.
Yeah.
Which of the speakers qualified?
Daniel Craig qualified, he was within the time.
Okay.
Emery, that's it, and then Emery did not.
Okay, so we'll dispense with voting for the best speaker, and I'll hand you over now to the general evaluator, who will conduct the next portion of our meeting. Dennis Gomez.
Thanks, everybody. Great speeches. Information that we need definitely to absorb better and I hope everybody really took in some of that. If you didn't, keep talking with Emery and with Dan. Evaluation, easy speak, is always critical. Let's move on to the evaluation section. Let's give a warm welcome to Mr. Will Burns. We'll be evaluating Dan Craig today.
Thank you, Dennis. Fellow Toastmasters, guests, and viewers at home, and especially Dan. This was a special treat for me tonight because Dan wasn't doing a basic CC speech. He wasn't even doing an advanced speech. This is from the Successful Club series, and actually it only applies to benefit in a way for the club. So this was a selfless act that Dan did here. I have to say, I learned things watching Dan's speech. Listening to Dan's speech. Things I wasn't aware of. Things like the tell and sell approach, which may be common in businesses across the nation, but I had never used before. I'd never heard of by that way. But this kind of ties in with what aspect I found of his presentational style that was quite unique. And that was that Dan stood up here and he didn't have to turn on the charm or fire up all this energy. I just got the sense of a quiet dignity and professionalism and competency that Dan radiated. That he knew his material. He didn't have to try to sizzle it up on the grill. He just gave what it was, used many examples, including using the tried and true technique of telling us what he was going to tell us, and then telling us that very thing. If I had a few suggestions for Dan, which thankfully I do, I'm going to be very careful, thanks to Dan's speech, not to be too harsh here in my evaluation. He had his introduction covered a lot of information and a lot of detail. And this isn't necessarily something he has to change, but something that could be done differently is it could be edited down for time if necessary, and you wanted a little bit more. But I also understand the benefit of front-loading information into your introduction to set the stage and then moving right into what you want to say. I felt like the visuals were smoothly handled. Dan had no problem just going through and incrementing each slide. And while he did use notes, he was able to comfortably go between the notes and the slides and use a lot of examples, a lot of practical examples. I felt like I left this speech a better evaluator, and that to become an evaluator, if I had no idea what I was doing, I could either give a few speeches up here and then be qualified to do it, or just watch Dan's presentation, and then I'd be ready to go. Thankfully, I don't have to test this. I've been in a number of evaluations, and I've heard plenty of Dan's speeches, and I'm looking forward to hearing more of them. And thank you once again, Dan, for your selfless service here for the club. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Will. Next up, we will be having Jean Symington Craig. Let's give her a warm welcome, and she will be evaluating Mr. Emery Styron's speech.
I like the warm part. Fellow Toastmasters, guests, and viewers at home, and particularly Emery. I'm going to use the manual criteria and just keep rolling from there. First question, what made the speech interesting? All club members are being asked to use and enjoy Easy Speak, so it's really relevant for each one of us. How effectively did the speech opening capture and hold your attention? I felt engaged. He asked, how many have been on Easy Speak? And some people raised, some people didn't, but we all felt like, okay, there's a baseline that we're here and we're going to learn how to all participate. How comfortable and familiar did the speaker appear to be with his or her material? I think Emery looked very comfortable with the material and has a lot of respect for it as a tool that we can use to organize our club and our meetings. How confident and in control did the speaker appear to be? He was a little challenged with the technology, had that hiccup at the front, but he had already told us he has a love-hate relationship with technology, so the technology was getting even, I think, at that point. That would be something that I would put in to check. What was the organizational structure of the speech? It was functional. It was a tour of Easy Speak, so it was looking at various areas in Easy Speak, how to log in, the profile, requesting the speech, all the things that we are going to be interacting with as club members. How did the speaker encourage the audience to learn? Well, he showed a lot of enthusiasm for Easy Speak and what it could be done and how it will fit with the club. And he offered actually to speak with members individually outside of the speech to really help everyone get the most out of Easy Speak. How effectively did the speaker relate new information to the common experiences and knowledge of the audience? I felt this was satisfactory. He was probably had a little bit of time crunch, but he did answer Will's question. If you have a specific leadership role that you'd want to do, you can go in there, you can request that. Confirm your attendance. If you know you're going to be out of town, you can go in there and mark ahead that you're going to be out of town. It's concrete examples of how to use Easy Speak. What would the speaker have done to make the talk more effective? What could he have done? I think since this tool is a very important one for the club functioning, I would suggest requesting more time to fully cover. It's hard to do that, but I think it's very much a learning tool. Secondly, I would suggest perhaps covering the weekly attendance part first after we got into Easy Speak, because that's the one that everyone is seeing every week. Like, log in and put your attendance and check your role, and then go in and, of course, and maybe the profile could be the first thing, but get to that part because we want people to get up and running on that and then start to show some of the other pieces. This is an example. And finally, of course, check the Wi-Fi signal, make sure there aren't any issues on having your presentation flow match your knowledge, because you obviously have a lot of knowledge. I really liked the organization. It was very point-centered. Just here's where we go, here's what you do. I learned things. It does look very cool, and we may need to have a part 2 on it as people get used to it. So thank you very much. That's the first Easy Speak presentation I've seen. I think it was very well done.
Thank you, Jean. Now we will be moving into the table topics section. Very proud to have Sir Hudaifa Shatnawi as our table topics master for the evening.
Thank you. Fellow Toastmasters and viewer at home, we do not have guests.
Oh,
We have,
we always have guests.
but we do not. Usually we have. What today? Spring fever. Who would like to speak for us about spring fever? Well, there.
Hey.
Okay. Spring fever mainly affects the plants and some animals. As an Iowan with this bad winter, how do you think that affects you? Thank you.
Toastmasters, guests, viewers at home. I've been on a roller coaster here in Iowa. As an Iowan, I'm used to this, but it seems like it's especially true this year. You know, I thought it was going to be a long winter, and all of a sudden we have days of warm weather. And then it's freezing outside. I finish work, I go to my car, and I have to struggle with the door because the ice had frozen today a little bit. I'm used to this as an Iowan, but I'm not used to this level of it happening so early and it happening so often. On the plus side, I found in past years that it's coming to the late summer, the winter just drags on like it did, I believe, last year. And I was just going to work, I'd take off my coat, go outside, put on the coat, shuffle in, go home, stay inside. And then that first magical spring day last year came. And I felt amazing. I felt euphoric. I felt liberated. I realized why I actually still live in this state. After so many months of questioning, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this to myself? And it made me realize how much the winter had affected me, how much the cold had affected me, how much the darkness had affected me. This year, thankfully, I've gotten some respite. I've managed to, every few weeks, all of a sudden the sun comes out, all of a sudden it warms up, and then it gets cold again, and I have to say this is the coldest day it's been in months because it feels so cold. I can't believe how cold it was today because it just was a little bit colder than it was the day before. But as an Iowan, I treasure the fact that I get to have these experiences. I get to, some of the most beautiful autumns I've ever seen have been in Iowa. And I've had the chance to enjoy winter here and many, many good summers. So I think I'll stay here for quite a while. Thank you.
What do you do in your life? Come, volunteer. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Suggestion.
Yeah, no. Usually you do not have a role. You're just a president and you do not have a role.
Let's make other people work.
Okay, do you think that the spring fever is a physical condition? Or has a physical condition in our bodies, or it's just like mental?
I like it.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Spring fever. Hello Toastmasters, invisible guests, and viewers at home. Spring fever is completely going crazy in the mind. But the answer really is both to you. Physical and mental conditions are really affected by the coming of spring, coming from winter, going to spring. Because really one issue that many people have once you're at a certain latitude is just that lack of vitamin D, the way I see it, physically. And that really affects people quite a bit in their head. They don't notice it. But like, hey, that's why you gotta go out and you gotta walk North Dakota style. You gotta enjoy the beautiful radiant sun when it's -20 outside with your face mask and everything. Once in a while, you know, you get a little vitamin D right here in the nose, a little Rudolph. But you know what? You really get adapted more so during the spring to actually being able to not cover your entire face so you don't lose part of it during the winter while you're in the Midwest. Because for the most part, wind is a huge issue in the Midwest. That being said though, let's get to the mental part, most importantly. Well, clearly, of course, vitamin D deficiency affects people because people can be more depressed, blah, blah, blah. About that, well, that's one issue. And also it's just the idea of that more of freedom that we can have when we're coming from a cold winter that can make us feel like we want to be bundled up in the home, in the garage, in the office. Some would say it's good for us, it makes us productive. Others would say it's terrible and I don't know what to do with my life and I'm getting cabin fever. There's really so many different ways to look at it. The answer really is it's both, and it's how you look at it. You can use it really good. Spring fever can be a great thing. It's the rebirth of a new year, a new season of new life for the plants, for the tulips, for all the great things that we see in Iowa. Or it can be you have less productivity because you're going to be rampaging out, looking for some sun finally. It's all in the mind, it's all in the body.
For
It's both.
ideal energy.
Yes. For energy, man. Lots of solar. Everybody wants solar. Anyway.
Thank you. We have time, or we still have we have time?
We're running pretty late.
Okay, so
So we could do one more
one more.
if you want. Yeah.
He's the president. So, we have volunteer. Veda. What is the first thing comes to your mind when you hear the word spring?
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master. Thank you to all the members and guests who've been so kind to me. The first thing that I think of when I hear the word spring is seeing the dark, loamy soil of New England where I grew up with just the tips, just the green tips of the plants poking through. It also reminds me of the fact of the Iowa. You go out in Iowa spring, you start seeing a hint of green and you realize that you've lived without the color green for an entire winter. And you, green! Wow, I remember that. You know, because there's fields and fields, there's yards and yards and yards, and they're all like this really horrendously uninspiring tannish brown color when the snow's not there, and of course white to add some variety. I relish the spring. Spring is my favorite season. It's the renewal of life. It says I can get more vitamin D now. I can get myself out of the house. So I guess with that, I'll wrap it up. I think it's a great question. Thank you so much for the question.
Okay, Mr. Timer, could you please tell us who's qualified?
Yeah, let's see, Daniel Craig qualified.
No, from the table topics
Oh, the
only.
table topics. Yeah, Will Burns went over in 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
No, without time, just
Oh, he's
qualified or not?
He did not qualify. Denise qualified, and Tyker qualified.
What's the timing requirement for
Data.
table topics? Point of information, what's the timing requirement for table topics?
It's 1 minute, 1 minute 30
It's
seconds.
It's two minutes.
Is there a 30-second grace period?
Yes, there is. 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Oh, you have that, okay, I got it, right, so everybody did qualify.
Everybody, so everybody is qualified. Okay, yeah. So could you please just or vote for best table
Can you
topics
repeat?
speaker?
You repeat the speakers?
Will, Dennis, and you. Veda, yeah. I will turn it to the general or table topics of sorry, Jeff Shepherd. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Hudaifa, and fellow Toastmasters for that warm welcome. It's my pleasure this evening to evaluate our table topic speakers. First up was Will Burns, who was asked, how do you think spring fever affects you? Will took some time up here, which is something I always recommend, and then he ended up retelling his experience, and he did that until he kind of built up in a little bit of a climax here, where he got some energy and some excitement. And overall, yeah, I thought it was a pretty solid performance for a table topic. Will's obviously very experienced. My kind of suggestion would be, it was clear that you started slower and then got your energy towards the end when you really got into that flow. So if you could somehow just accelerate that and maybe hit that flow earlier on in the speech, might be a more effective table topic. Next up was Dennis, asked about the spring fever being actually a physical condition. He also took time. And what I really liked about Dennis, he came out with energy, which is something he's very good at. Probably why he is our club president, because he has that energy, vibrant energy. And he also gave a great answer, which was actually pretty valid in my opinion. Talked about vitamin D, a great subject. One thing he did that I didn't quite care for is that he used the expression blah, 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 I think at one point in time, which as the odd counter, I would definitely I think it was used as a filler word, as a crutch. There's other expressions that perhaps might make you sound a little bit more sophisticated and might not interrupt an otherwise very solid point that the audience deserves to hear. So you kind of, we got to be careful not to undercut ourselves. And that's what some of those, if we're careless with our speak, we could inadvertently undercut our credibility or our forcefulness. Then you ended with great energy too, and I really enjoyed. You do have a great energy as a speaker. Could have, one more suggestion, could have been maybe more concise on the conclusion. Overall, it worked well, but it kind of trailed on a little bit where, you just hit that period, full stop, stick the landing. But anyway, great table topic. Last up was Veda. He was asked, what comes to mind when you think of spring? Great question. He did not take time up front, but as he presented his opening, he did have a very kind of deliberate, methodical approach to his opening lines. But then he came up and really built it up right away with a really great vivid and descriptive language, which helped paint a picture in our mind. He had vocal variety. He did a really great act-out kind of gesture. He used an exaggerated language, and then he matched that with his gesture, which is a really powerful technique, which you did well, very well, executed that pretty flawlessly. A great rhythm too. Like I said, building it up into the crescendo and having that pace and that tempo, really using that to bring the audience in. And then you ended up ending with actual very direct answers to the question, and lots of them. So overall, you did exactly what was asked of you as a table topic, answering very directly and then using those articulate speaking skills to your advantage. Only suggestion for you, again, the conclusion wasn't as strong as it could have been, kind of trailed off. And if you really would have stuck that landing, hit that note, probably would have been pretty perfect. But instead, maybe think about your conclusion, working on that next time. But other than that, a really great job. Very impressed with all our speakers and our table topic master. Great questions. And let's keep this meeting moving. I will call forth, our general evaluator will come back up now and bring this meeting home.
Thank you, Jeff. Next up, we would like to also see Mr. Timer, which evaluators have qualified?
So if you're
Yep.
employee on the job.
Yep, no problem.
So, Emery obviously did not qualify, but, had.
In terms of evaluators, just evaluators. Okay, thank you, sir. Yep, thank you, Mr. Timer. So, to repeat, we have Jean, who has qualified, Will Burns qualified, and Jeff Shipley qualified. Please vote for who is the best evaluator. Everybody's voted? Anybody who has not voted, speak up or hold your peace. Okay, let's move on to reports. I'm going to wrap things up. First of all, let's actually start with our grammarian today. Veda, Mr. Grammarian, please give us your report.
Shift towards the back, do my report. Good evening, Mr. Toastmaster, Mr. Table Topics Master, Mr. General Evaluator. Tonight we had a great use of the word inoculate. The first two speakers up, Dan and Emery, used the word inoculate effectively. I did not hear the word of the day from anyone else. Correct me if I'm wrong. The thing about this meeting, I'm going to make a point of the use of the word thank you. A little bit of a pet peeve of mine is the continuous use of the word thank you at the end of speeches. I heard a few references of it used correctly and a few just used incorrectly. If you just end with the word thank you, it's considered trite, and it is not a sign of great speaking. It is a sad state of affairs that our club has fallen into that usage. However, I love the way that Emery used the word thank you. Dan used the word thank you at the end of his speech incorrectly, but Emery used it in a sentence. Thank you for your attention. You can see me after the meeting. That was great. Also, Will used it in a sentence, including the words thank you once again, but he used other words also, so he also used it correctly. To move on to other points, it was really difficult tonight on the grammar, because usually people are using a lot of colorful phrases. Tonight it was all very technical. The technicality of it left me speechless almost. Dan used the words play up the strong points and correct the flaws, but it was a good summary, so it was a great summary. Emery used some very good technical words, but I was so distracted by some of the technical issues, I didn't record any of those words exactly. My criticism for Dan, sorry to move back and forth like this, but Dan, the speed of his speech seemed an impediment to proper, it's not exactly a grammatical point, but it was such an overarching point in the speech. I think that if you were to speak very quickly and then pause, we would be able to absorb all that great technical language a little better, because you did slow down later in the speech. Will used a lot of repetition. I don't remember all the words, but he got into euphoric and liberated. It seemed like he kept on giving us great words. And then get a respite. Dennis, I would criticize him for the use of the words blah, blah, blah. Jeff was very positive in his speaking, and he used a lot of great descriptive words. I liked hit that flow earlier, that someone should hit their flow earlier. Inadvertently undercut the credibility, and great rhythm. I love that he related rhythm to pace and crescendo. So overall, a great, interesting, and well-articulated group of speeches and table topics tonight.
On that note, let's move on to our odd counter for the evening, Mr. Jeff Shipley.
Thanks, Dennis. I heard Veda say once, Will Burns, I heard him say and 3 times with a but and a 4 ands. Jean, I heard her say 4 times, but they were very hidden, so I had to listen very carefully. And I also heard her say and 1 time in the way that was a filler word. That's my report. Thank you.
Thank you for the concise report, Jeff. Yeah, okay, I agree, but here's something I'll say. It's going to be unpopular to everybody, including myself, is we really need to show up on time. So we wouldn't have these issues today if everybody needs to show up 10 minutes ahead of time. We all know many of us could have done much better today, and we are behind schedule as a result. So yes, I totally agree. We need more training. We need to be better. Everybody needs to be here by 7:35 if we want to do well, succeed as a club. So I agree. Today we could have used a lot of improvement, but I appreciate your input. Good report. Thank you. Well, anyway, that moves on to the point I'll introduce myself as general evaluator, but that was the first thing I was actually going to say is time on my part as president, both president and Toastmaster, we probably need to crack the whip a little bit more and just, if we see people are not here by 7:40, we'll have to give more roles to fewer people because frankly, today we didn't have many people on time, not enough at least. So, and we had a little bit of issue of giving benefit of doubt with people coming in and out of the room. So it was a little bit of an awkward situation today, but we really got to step it up as a club about getting people on time here. And yeah, that will be getting more guests here, getting more recruits. It's critical. But let's move on to general evaluation really quick since we're running quite late. So Will, first of all, I would like to comment that you have done very well on your ornamental language. Excellent job on that. The way that you pointed out, like radiate here, with the theme of the meeting, that was very well done. One thing I would say that you could improve on would be use more active words at some parts, be a little bit more concise. Sometimes you said kind of, and then you went around saying something like something. Yeah, reduce the amount of kind ofs and things like that. Another strong point of yours was you used humor in terms of playing off the speech directly. So you mentioned that Dan was talking about something about you don't want to be too harsh. Well, you play that in his good humor, and that's something I appreciate. Another thing, you kept it really focused about the best attributes of everybody's speech. In this case, today it was Dan's. And you focused on, he kept it good, he kept it simple. Simplicity is important. Well done on focusing on that attribute. Jean, today you reinforced the attention-getting device that Emery used effectively very well. So you encouraged him, and you really brought that out about how he did well getting all the audience, everybody involved by saying, easy speak. How many of you are involved? So the way you encourage that, you get people to keep doing the right things, that's very good. You also used humor effectively, which is important, especially when you're doing evaluations often. By using that humor, you were talking about, oh, well, how he has technology as his enemy, and you're playing that off well, effectively. One thing that you could do better at times when you're reading off the manual in this case, and I'm doing it right now a little bit too, is just maintaining a little bit more eye contact with the audience at times when you're reading off the manual especially. If possible, try to actually reduce the amount of verbatim reading from the manual and just try to be a little bit more concise about it or almost put your own words at times. That would help in terms of making more eye contact consistently. Sequential suggestions was a very strong point of yours. At the end, you ended off with 1, 2, 3, bang, bang. Everything was very clear in your examples of what in this case Emery had pointed out and done very well. So congratulations, well done on that, Jean. Jeff, excellent evaluation today. Very good. First of all, you were very animated with your gestures right away. So naturally it gets my attention effectively when you're using your hand gestures, you're moving around the stage in an animated way. So it's very good for evaluations as well as speech in general. So good job there. So that was a strong beginning, and you consistently did that throughout your evaluation. Another part is you had excellent suggestions overall, giving clear examples of what all three of us in this case, had done today. The only thing I'd really say for you, suggestion-wise, to improve on, is a couple of times you were almost going like this with your footwork. So I thought, whoa, don't fall over, buddy. I was like, whoa. That's really about it. Otherwise, I was like, whoa, I don't want him to hurt his head or something. Yeah. And otherwise, another really strong point is, and Veda pointed this out very well too, is you analyze rhythm. Rhythm is important in the speech, and especially on the last point about Veda's speech, you pointed out very effectively. So, well done, Jeff, very well done. That summarizes my evaluation of evaluators. Mr. Toastmaster.
Yeah, and let's give a drum roll for this section. We are going to be giving out the awards. And best speaker, Dan Craig. Right, let's move on to best evaluator, Jeff. Oh, sorry.
That's better.
All right, your move for best table topics. Veda.
Thank you so much.
Okay, and with that, I'll hand you over to the president to wrap up this meeting.
Thank you, everybody, for your participation, suggestions, and keeping it all moving forward. Today, really, all I have to talk about is any business you guys have in general. Other than that, we're gonna cut it short and then really quick. One thing important to announce is please send me an email if you are planning to contribute to a club contest, which is coming up soon. Okay. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Please head out.